Hey everybody, welcome back to the Help Me Parent podcast. We have an exciting episode today, as always. We have Dr. Ellen Moore with us. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
And we have our first married couple on this episode. I'm so excited for this. We have Courtney and Christian Diaz.
What up?
Kind of tell us a little bit about yourselves, how long you've been married, how many kids you got. Just lay it all on us.
How long have we been married?
We have been married since 2014, July
right?
26th. And that would be almost 9 years.
There you go.
Wow. Well done. You passed the
Gold
test.
star. And then y'all have 3 girls. What are their ages?
We have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, she just turned 4, and a 2-year-old. They're all girls.
So fun. How is that?
It's fun. It's a lot.
It's a
A
lot.
lot of emotions.
I just want to know,
Yeah.
because we have a married couple.
Yeah.
Is this a marriage counseling
Yeah.
or parenting
It
episode?
could very
Yes.
easily turn into marriage counseling. So just all of it just going to be on the
Yeah.
table
Free
for
marriage
everyone to see.
counseling.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect.
Okay, so we usually start off with an icebreaker, but we're not doing that this episode. We're starting off with a not so newlywed game. Okay,
Ooh.
so I have about 7 questions for y'all. They're pretty easy. Okay,
This is definitely going into marriage counseling.
Not so
Yeah.
newlywed. That's adorable.
I left off those. Okay, who snores louder?
Yikes.
Definitely Courtney.
Oh,
I
my
don't
gosh.
She doesn't snore. She doesn't snore.
Do you snore though?
No.
Occasionally you do.
Oh,
Just
okay.
breathe loudly.
Breathe loudly.
I wouldn't call it snoring.
Okay, see, the questions are just like that. I know the answer to this one. Who's the best chef?
This guy.
I'm just going to say, I asked Isabella what she wanted for dinner. And you know what she told me? Smash burgers, because mommy makes the best smash burgers.
I will say,
Oh.
she has stepped up her game
Yeah.
recently.
No, but he's definitely.
She's cooked a lot, and it's like, I've always from the beginning encouraged her every time she's cooked, and so now she's cooking more, and she's doing
9
really
years
good.
later, she's dominating it.
I'm
Yeah.
a recipe girl, though. He can
Yeah.
just go in the pantry and just make
Throw
it
it
happen.
together.
Yeah.
Yes, but prior to more recently, you were mainly the one who cooked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I watch YouTube videos. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in the kitchen
Love
Yeah.
it.
and eating all the ingredients before they got cooked.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So
The brownie batter
Sweet.
and all that.
'Kay.
Okay. What was your first date?
It's-
Oh.
we'll say it at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1.
A movie.
Hastings.
most Christian
okay. We
answer.
could go to a movie.
But here's the thing is we
We watched
watched the Glee movie together.
we watched a movie.
The
and,
Glee
yeah.
concert.
I think it was some Glee.
He doesn't want to mention what movie it was.
It was
like,
a
"It's My Little
selfless
Pony."
sacrifice.
Yes.
You know,
That's how you won
just
her over.
for all you guys out there
Yeah.
wanting to be wed. Sacrifice.
Yes.
Sacrifice is key.
Okay, who is messier?
We're both pretty messy. We are
Court?
messy.
We go through spurts of him being more messy, me being more messy.
Okay.
I'm
It's
definitely
very-
cleaner at work than I am at home.
Same.
Yeah. I don't know. I've seen Courtney's coffee cups on her desk before.
Okay, well that's a different story. This one, in fact, I had to clean before
Yeah.
from the last podcast.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
Hey, that's a great incentive to clean your mugs, though.
Yeah.
Okay, who is needier when they are sick between you two? Not the kids.
Probably me, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I like to pretend I'm not sick when I'm sick, unless I'm like really sick.
Yeah.
But if it's just like, I'm like, no, I'm not sick.
He's not the typical guy that you think like is like dying when he has a cold. I'm probably more that way.
Yeah.
He's not a baby.
Right.
Oh, there you go. Okay, this one is actually a good segue into what else we're going to be talking about. What is something new that you have seen in your spouse since becoming a parent?
Something new.
Or like something that your love has grown from them in that way since becoming a parent?
Since becoming a parent,
Yeah.
I think something I get to witness is definitely her patience and just like her willingness to be calm during some things. And like, I grew up in a pretty hot household, and to see just kind of like, and she calms me down a lot, but seeing that, and then just seeing just that nurturing, you know, like that nurturing motherly nature, like just like,
Yeah.
That's good.
I love witnessing when he just talks to our girls, just on that tender level about the Lord or through situations. You just have this gift of meeting them on their level and talking to them how they need to hear about God and how much he loves them.
This is good marriage counseling.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That was great.
I'm sure you have a question, but what you just said, it sounds like you kind of grew up maybe in more of an emotionally charged household.
Yeah.
Is that true? How has that impacted negatively and positively your home and your parenting style and how that dynamics?
I think negatively, of course, raising girls, it's, you know, they're very emotional, and you know, growing up, I had brothers, and so there was no girls. You know, I didn't get to witness girls,
Right.
or how to deal with girls or emotions, and so dealing with all that is new to me. But Courtney helps a ton with that. And then I think positively, I get to show them how to apologize.
Yeah.
He's really
If
good
I,
at
if
apologizing.
I can make a positive spin on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I don't want like brag or anything about it, but we've talked about it a lot. I will always go and apologize to them and tell them, hey, how I did it was wrong, you know, and then I get to talk to them about like, you know, honestly, this is kind of weird, but sometimes I ask them for feedback on like, how could I have done that a little bit better?
Yeah.
And of course, our oldest, she's super fast with, well, you raised your voice. You weren't loving or kind and stuff. But I'm like, I don't know. If I could make a positive spin on that, you know, I get to have a conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
Sometimes the apology creates this space for a conversation, and then I get to be vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
Because like, I think that's kind of important for them to see. And I think it's important for them to be able to apologize too. So that's that spin on it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Kids need to know it's a safe place to make mistakes because we all do it. So that's really good. What about for you, the way he grew up? What has been the positive and negative impact on you and your family?
He has a hot temper sometimes, a little less patient sometimes, but like he said, he's always, as long as I've known him, he's always just been quick to apologize, which has not been a strength of mine. So I would say, I guess just jumping on that, that's something that I've really learned from him, and especially watching him do it with the girls. He's just so humble and saying, hey, I was wrong. And even with me. So that's just really cool to see and learn from him with that.
Yeah, that's
really
good.
That's another thing is, I mean, we get to talk about it sometimes too. And it's not always like a good talk. It's like, you got to chill out. And, you know, it's always something that I guess, you know, we're all growing in certain areas, you know, and I think that's definitely one of those, like, I don't know, that, you know, God does help us grow in certain areas. And, you know, I'm thankful that she's there. We kind of balance each other out, and, you know, we get to have those conversations.
Well, I think luckily, like, when I do have a temper, you're not in a temper. So it's like this weird, like, I'm up here and he's level. And so it's, I'm thankful for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about you, Courtney? How you grew up? How has that impacted your home and family?
I grew up in a family where I definitely felt so loved. But I also didn't hear sorry a lot. So I think that's why I struggle with just saying sorry. I like to just tuck things in. So being around someone who is so quick to say sorry. I mean, within 5 minutes, this guy's like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, I need like a day.
Yeah.
And then I might be ready.
Yes.
Or it might just be tucked in so deep I don't want to say anything.
You sorry yet?
He's asked me before.
You're like, it's been 3 years. Gosh.
But not only that is he's so quick to forgive. Just some of the things I know he's been through, he's just like, it's okay. And that's something I've struggled with, or just have realized that there's some things that in my life that I need to forgive people for. And he's just such an example of how the Lord forgives us. He's just so quick to be like, it's okay. Like, so, all that to say, it's a lot of talking about apologizing, but that is something I'm really growing in, and learning a lot from him, and something that really impacted my childhood.
Yeah.
I think that's so good that y'all are doing that kind of naturally and all of that, because I think, you know, we have talked about several times about how parenting is a lot about relationships. The relationships we have now with our kids, and with the end in mind, the relationship we want with our kids down the road. And we're teaching them these people skills, these relational skills that will carry on, just like what you guys learned growing up will carry on to your girls' families. And I think one of the things that can be a struggle for kids that you guys are modeling so well is when somebody does something wrong, when a child does something wrong and they're disciplined, there's some kind of punishment, and whether that's handled in a great way or, you know, maybe emotions are charged and, you know, it's handled kind of harshly. Either way, to help kids realize that in the end, what we want is the restoration of the relationship. And you need that closure of a conflict to be able to restore the relationship. So when a child disobeys or is disrespectful, does something wrong, tells a lie, does something wrong, it breaks the relationship. The relationship is impacted. But when you come back and whoever it is that needs to apologize, needs to own it, says, I am so sorry. Will you please forgive me? And the answer is given, yes, I forgive you. That restores the relationship. And a lot of kids struggle with feeling like they struggle with the relationship never being restored. And that's how they grow up, feeling like, I never get anything right. I'm always in trouble. I don't know if mom or dad loves me because they're always getting on to me, or they're withdrawn, or they're just trying so hard to please, please, please. You know, it's that closure, that restoration of the relationship that kids need. And they need to hear it, but we also have to teach them how to do it. Yep. So the fact that you're modeling it and they're hearing you say, I'm sorry, Daddy handled that wrong. Will you please forgive me? And that relationship is restored, creates a space, a safe place for them to be able to say, and you probably have to walk them through this, you know, to teach them how to do it. Okay, you just disobeyed, or you raised your voice at your sister or whatever. So what do you need to do? You need to go apologize. So you need to say, I'm sorry. I was unkind to you. Will you please forgive me? And that restores that relationship between siblings, between parent and child, whoever. So I love that you guys are modeling that. I just see that a lot with kids, that a lot of the struggles that they have with their parents is because they never got the relationship restored. It's just always kind of hanging out there. It's either tucked away, like you were saying, and never dealt with, or, you know, everybody gets mad and you have this big blow up, but nothing's ever resolved or talked about to bring the closure. Kids really struggle with that. So I think that is so good that you guys have learned that, are modeling that, and your girls will be better for it.
And are learning that.
Well, for sure.
Yeah.
We all are learning.
I mean, with the 2, 4, and 6-year-old, forcing them to say sorry, it kind of be hard. Is it too far? Like, because we tell them to go say sorry. Whenever they do their sister wrong or something. Like, I'm kind of like, look them in the eyes. You didn't say sorry to them. You said sorry to the ground, kind of thing. Like, it's okay to kind of like make them do it right?
Absolutely. That's how they learn. And we have to, and I think what can feel awkward too is when we're kind of forcing them to do it to us. So, you know, you're saying, all right, you just disobeyed, or you didn't tell the truth. You need to say, I'm sorry to mommy or to daddy, you know, and you're talking about yourself. All right, look me in the eye. Tell me you're sorry. What are you sorry for? And it's like we're forcing them to do it to us. It's a little easier between siblings, but it is really important we're in that training mode of, that's how they learn. You have to show them what it looks like, what it sounds like. So you may have to give them the words, tell them where to look, you know, how to, I remember, especially with our daughter, we had to say, okay, try that again with a happy heart and a happy face, you know, because if it was like, I'm sorry, like, no, because there needs to be a softness there, you know, to genuinely mean it. So I think you're doing it really smart.
I've noticed our oldest has gotten really good at saying sorry. But our middle is a little bit more reluctant, or even sometimes Isabella will ask her, will you forgive me? And Sophia just like won't say anything. So what would you do in that moment?
Yeah. I would say, if, again, deal with each child in each moment as it comes. But if the issue, you know, Isabella's done something, she's responded correctly, it's Sophia who won't grant the forgiveness, then I would say in that moment, tell Isabella, you know what, Sophia might just need a few minutes to think about this. So you have done everything that you need to do. You're free to go. And then after she's free to go, then I would have a conversation with Sophia and say, Sophia, you know, have you ever done anything wrong? Sometimes we need to forgive. Sometimes you need people to forgive you. So you have to learn to forgive others. And so I'm going to give you a few minutes, and then you tell me when you're ready to forgive your sister, and then bring her back to it. Gotcha. So not necessarily force it in the moment, give them the space, because some people do need a little bit of time to process it. And it's like, I don't really know if I want to forgive her. Let me think about that. But then have a conversation. So you're training on the granting of forgiveness too. But give them that space. And, you know, there may be times it's like, okay, it's time for you to say it, kind of whether you mean it or not. To get them to say the words, and then it'll all follow.
That's good.
No, that's cool. I was just about to ask, like, do we train forgiveness too? But I guess it's.
Receiving it, granting it, asking for it, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it even like shows like that's how y'all were raised in those kind of different atmospheres. So like you're bringing that to the table with your kids. You're showing them the patience and you're showing them the easiness to forgive. So that is some like techniques and stuff that y'all have taught your kids through your childhood. But what about when you had like first gotten married? How do you prepare in those months or years or that season for parenting? How do you prepare in that early in marriage? And even you, how did you and Philip prepare to be parents before you when you were just married?
I think parenting is kind of like marriage. You know, it's you just got to jump in. You're never going to be ready.
Yeah.
You're never ready
Mm-hmm.
to get married. You're never ready to be this perfect spouse. You're never ready to be the perfect parent. You just got to jump in. It's, you know, I think I've heard it said parenting is the one thing you don't need a license for, you know.
Yeah.
You need a license to drive. You do need a license to get married.
Yeah.
But there's no requirement, no training required to becoming a parent.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
And it's
crazy.
like the most important job
Yeah.
in the world. You are
Literally.
forming human beings
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be contributing members to society. And how the heck are you supposed to learn? You just jump in.
Go with the
Yeah.
punches.
And
Jump
yes,
in.
Yeah.
but I do think it's good to have some conversations going into it. You know, I think lots of couples have the conversations of when do we want to have kids? You know, do we want to wait? We waited for 5 years. How long did y'all wait to have kids?
I guess
2017 is when we had it.
it's like 2.5 years. Two and
Yeah.
a half years.
Yeah. And then sometimes the best laid plans go awry and, you know, it just happens.
I mean, yeah, I think there was always the idea of a little bit longer, but
Yeah.
like, you know, it's just you have kids sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It just kind of happens. So to talk about, you know, when do we want to have kids? How many kids do we want? I think it's good to have, I remember when we first got married and we would be around other people with kids, we would leave and come home and talk about, how would you have handled that situation? Did you notice when they did that? How would we do that? You know? And so we would just kind of have some of these conversations. There's no way to be prepared for obviously every scenario, but I think it's good to talk about, you know, what is going to be our style for discipline and things like that. But again, you can talk about it all day long until you get into it. You don't really know. And it all changes.
Yeah.
And it changes from kid to kid because every kid's different.
No, absolutely. I'm always this kind of person that's like, oh, this is like a really cool like family thing. Like everyone has like, not everyone, but there's people who have like their family motto on the wall and stuff. And I'm like, what's our big 5 or big 3 or whatever for a family.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of like, then you have a kid and it's just, you forget. You kind of forget.
You're like,
Survive.
Keep them alive.
Yeah. It turns into that. For sure.
No, that's great. So I think part of going into that is also prioritizing your relationship with the Lord, because we've talked about the different relationships. Like obviously you two and parents have their own individual relationship with the Lord. You have your marriage and then you have your parenting. Those are relationships you have. How do those rank for parents who might not know? How do those rank? What's most important? Is my kid my world? Is my husband my world? Where does God fit in? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. I read years ago, and I think I read it when I was a new teacher, so before we ever had kids. And I so agree with it. But the author said the best gift that you can give your child is a strong marriage. And I 100% believe that is where they see how to live life. They learn how to value people. They learn how to have conflict and resolve conflict. They learn how to love, because we've said it before, more is caught than taught. And how they see mom and dad relating to each other is the best gift you can give your kids, is to focus on your marriage. Now, obviously, your personal relationship with God, that's going to be number one, because you're not going to be a good spouse without, I don't think. I know I couldn't be any kind of a decent spouse if I didn't have God and his grace, his wisdom, his help, all of that. And so making sure that that is happening after you get married and then after you have kids is a whole nother ball game, because your time is not your own always. But finding ways to just connect with God, and a relationship, it looks different in different seasons. You know, just like your relationship looks different now than when you were dating or when you were engaged or when you were first married. None of it is wrong. It just kind of changes in different seasons. And I think our relationship with God does too. It looks different in different seasons. And so I think, you know, when you've got little kids, sometimes your relationship with God is just saying in the middle of the night and you're feeding, it's like, will you please help me? Because I am going to lose my mind. Or it's just talking to God while you're washing dishes or doing the 35th load of laundry or whatever. It's just talking to him in the middle of it all without this, you know, hour in the morning that you don't have anymore. But God's not offended by that. He just wants to do it with you. And that's a great thing to show your kids. So personal relationship with Jesus is absolutely top, but then your marriage has to take priority over your kids. You're still going to have each other when the kids are gone. And you want that to be good and something you look forward to, and not just in it for the kids. Plus, I mean, that's a disservice to you all, but it's also a disservice to your kids to make them think that they're the center of the universe, because once they get out on their own, they're going to discover they're not the center of the universe. And that's going to be a rude awakening. So if they can learn that at home, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
So how have you guys navigated that relationship with God, with each other, all that?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I agree with your order. I think, I mean, of course, with us, ours looks different. I mean, our relationship with God, our quiet times, it all looks different. But yeah, I mean, we of course, we let the kids know God first. It's like, I love God more than I love you. And Isabella says it like,
She tells us that now.
she says all the time.
That's
Like, I love you, but I love God more.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like, I'm not,
always do that.
I'm not offended.
Yes.
Because same.
Yes. Exactly.
Ditto.
Right back at you.
Yeah. And I mean, we tell the girls all the time, and we're pretty. Sometimes we like to be intentionally kind of like huggy and stuff in front of them, because I think they enjoy seeing that. You know, and what do you think, Court? She's processing right now.
I am processing. Rainbow wheeling.
As far as like, I want to kind of like go back to the whole preparing kind of thing. And I think like, one thing I don't think I did the best in, but I wanted to do great in, was creating like a very like consistency, especially like with my quiet time, with like making that time. And I think that's something that, like, if you can create consistency beforehand, and even when things get disrupted, it's like it almost turns into like that muscle memory a little bit. It's like, okay, like there's some kind of time that I'm going to intentionally make here, you know. I'm not going to like let that falter or anything. And even like, I wanted to make good habits for like dishes and laundry too.
Yeah.
But it's sometimes life happens, you know, and just like you said, the Lord understands, but like I get interrupted all the time in my quiet time. And I'm just like, come here, come get let's read something.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to like Psalm 23 because that's easy. They kind of have that memorized. And I'll go to right now. I read 1 Corinthians 13 with them a lot. I tell them like God tells us to walk in love. This is what love looks like, and so we kind of like go through what love looks like a lot. Anytime they interrupt me.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I don't know, it makes me kind of wonder like, what is something good to read with your kids? Because I have the hardest time, like right now, I just have the 2 chapters, and I have a hard time, maybe even at night, just trying to think of what is something good that I can read from the Bible that is easy for them to digest. Besides, I mean, there's of course Our Kids at Home. We should be doing Our Kids at Home. But
shameless plug.
Yeah.
Bible 365 was mentioned in another episode, so hey.
Yeah. But I want to be able to like read the Bible with them, but like what's a good place to start like with our kids? Like they're young. They can't really like understand a lot. Isabella came in one day reading, what was it?
The First Murder. Cain and Abel. Yeah. I'm in bed. She's like, hey, Mom, look, I was reading this. I'm like, The First Murder. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
But we talked about it.
Yeah.
And it ended up, I think, turning out great.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Yeah. There's some, lots of things that could be found in the Bible that are interesting topics of conversation.
Yeah, like obviously avoid Song of Solomon.
Yeah. And just most of the Old Testament, honestly.
We have the what is the Bible that we have? It's the most simple kids Bible that we read. We've read it through many times. But I think Isabella's getting to that age where we need to get her a Bible that's more appropriate for her that we can all read together. So just kind of on that vein, what would you do for his question? And if you did have a Bible or a version or something, what would you suggest?
I think when they're little, like the little devotionals or the Bible storybooks, just reading the stories about David and Goliath and Jonah and the whale and, just all of those stories of God showing up in big ways are a great place to start when they're little. And then when especially if they're starting to read on their own, I think a lot of it is picking the right version. That's like, please don't do King James Version with your kids.
Oh gosh, I've tried reading King James.
I don't even understand it.
New King James.
Some people love it, so that's great. But for your kids, let's start a little simpler. So the New Living Translation is a great one for kids, and the New International Reader's Version. Both of those are written about a 3rd grade level. And so those are 2 that I think are really good and easily understood. The other thing is wherever you're reading, obviously the language helps, that they're using, but some even concepts are easier to understand than others in the Bible, but all of it is planting seeds. And his word said his word never returns void. So even if they're coming and sitting on your lap and you're reading, whatever it is, John or 1 John or whatever, whether you think they can really understand the concepts, don't worry about that. Just read it and let it just plant some seeds. And who knows, when they grow up, they're like, oh, that sounds familiar. Oh, I remember my dad reading
Yeah.
that. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so I wouldn't worry so much about are they really getting it. I think for the family Devo time, those Bible storybooks or kids devotionals, whatever, great. But if it's like they're coming into your quiet time, don't worry about making it for them. Just let them hear what you're reading. And whether they understand it or not, it's planting seeds, it's going in, and who knows what God can do with it.
It's so true, because I can remember when I was young, my dad pulling us in for family Bible reading time, and we were reading Romans, and I did not understand anything.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, we're reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that stuck with me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think what kids are seeing and what you saw is, oh, my dad loves God's word. So I love God's word. And okay, I don't understand it, but I love it. And so, and then, but I think those are two great places to start where you did with Psalm 23. I love Psalm 139 where it talks about God formed me. He knew me before I was born.
Okay.
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Those things.
that's what
First
it is.
John, where it talks about this is love, what love looks like, kind of with the 1 Corinthians 13, but it's always a good one too. But I'd say just read aloud whatever you're reading.
Yeah. I saw a really cool video the other day, and it was his dad talking. He goes, I do my quiet time every morning on the couch in the living room with my kids. And I have my electronic Bible like on my iPad. And it made me think, my kids see me on